welcome to CANTO's 34th Annual Conference and Trade Exhibition.
Welcome to CANTO 2018. It is the 34th Annual Trade and Exhibition Show, and this year we are in the beautiful country of Panama, and we're staying at the Hard Rock Hotel. I will be sure this entire week to bring you all of the sights and the sounds from right here at CANTO as we talk about guiding digital adoption to lead the global market. This is CANTO 2018.
I wish to share two quotes with you. The first from Charles Darwin, and it reads, "It is not the strongest of the species that survives, nor the most intelligent. It is the one that is most adaptable to change." The second quote is from Eric Pearson, and it states, "It's no longer the big beating the small, but the fast beating the slow." I think of these two quotes when I consider the theme for this year's conference, Guiding Digital Adoption to Lead Global Markets. Adaptability and speed are key drivers to transforming and adopting new digital norms. We must be adaptable and we must be nimble in order to achieve digital adoption. Hi, I'm Teresa Wankin, and I'm the Secretary General of CANTO. Welcome to Panama. Ajit Pai, the chairman of the FCC, we invited him and we got him to come and speak to the delegates at this conference. It was so important to us to have him, the FCC chairman, address delegates because, as you know, 80% of the suppliers of products and services to this region come from the United States. So having Ajit Pai was a strategic move. Whatever regulations the United States have, it affects the operators in the Caribbean, it affects the citizens of the Caribbean.
I am even more excited to engage with all of you and to exchange ideas and experiences over the next few days. The primary focus of my remarks tonight will be the primary focus of my chairmanship since day one, closing the digital divide in order to make sure that everyone can benefit from the internet revolution. Now, I've made it my top goal to deliver digital opportunity, as I call it, to everyone in my country for the same reason that so many of you have done so in your countries. Because access to the internet means access to a better life. As we kick off CANTO 2018, it's important that we never forget why we are here, why our work to expand digital opportunity matters. And that is because connectivity isn't just raising our standard of living, it's changing our way of life. High-speed broadband not only has the power to transform lives, it has the power to save lives. We may all come from different countries, but we all share common bonds. Bonds of geography, and more importantly, bonds of shared values. As your neighbor, as your partner, and as your friend, I'm calling on all of us to work together to bring digital opportunity to all people of the region. Let's get to work, and let's get to work together. Thank you very much for your accommodation.
We are at CANTO 2018 right here in, of course, beautiful Panama City. And I am here with someone who is very, very, very important to the television that we watch, right? And he's from the FCC, and his name is Ajit Pai. Welcome to CANTO.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me on.
No, absolutely. Talk to me a little bit about what the FCC is for our audience who may not know, and of course, what do you do?
So we are the primary communications regulation agency in the United States. We regulate the broadband, broadcast, and other technologies that are used to communicate. And I'm the chairman currently of the FCC. I've been in this position since January of 2017.
Wow. And so now when you say you regulate, would it mean that you're like the watchdog? Are you spying on us? What does that mean?
No, so we're not the watchdog, but what we do is to make sure that the networks are available. We make sure, for example, that internet access is in as many parts of the United States as possible. And we also make sure that consumers are protected so that if companies do bad things and harm consumers, that we are the cop on the beat to make sure that those consumers are vindicated. But the primary mission of the FCC under my leadership has been trying to close the digital divide, the gap between those who have access to technology and those who don't. And to me, at least, when I travel around the country, and I've been to now 33 states and the territories of Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands, I've seen some communities that are on the wrong side of that divide, and that motivates me to want to go back to Washington and do everything that we can to solve that problem. There are millions of people in our country, around the world, who need access to technology to be able to start a business, improve their lives, and make their communities stronger. That's something that we need to focus on.
Well, absolutely. I mean, this year it's really all about bridging that digital divide and really moving towards more of a business economy. How can the FCC, even though it's really just for the U.S., help other nations like the ones in the Caribbean as well?
So part of it involves this conference. So getting to meet regulators from other countries and other parts of the world is very useful to us to be able to exchange best practices. For example, the U.S. is doing a lot of interesting work in allocating funding to be able to fund broadband networks. We're sharing some of those ideas with other Caribbean countries. Conversely, I'm trying to learn from some of my counterparts across the Caribbean in terms of disaster response. What are the things that you are doing to prepare for the upcoming hurricane season? Is there anything the United States can learn from you to be able to make sure that our citizens stay safe? All of us are in this together at the end of the day. I don't pretend to have a monopoly on wisdom, so we always come to the table looking to exchange ideas. And if we do that in a successful way, everyone is better off.
Thank you so much. Listen, it has been amazing talking to you. The FCC, of course, has your back. We are here in Panama City for CANTO 2018, and when I come back, of course, we are going to be bringing you more right here from this conference. It's CANTO 2018, and of course I'm here talking with the chairman, Mr. Julian Wilkins himself. How are you doing?
Fabulous. We've had I think one of the best CANTOs so far, actually.
Yeah.
2018's been really good.
It's been amazing. Talk to me a little bit about why Panama?
You know, Panama's an amazing place, but primarily because it's Central America. You know, CANTO, we tend to have our events in the Caribbean, but we are trying to become global, and so we're reaching out to our operators, regulators in Central America. So this is the first time we've had a conference here in Central America, and why not Panama?
Of course, why not Panama? Such a great country, and of course Panama City, a great city to be in. Talk to us a little bit, because we know CANTO is headquartered in Trinidad, but talk to our audience about what CANTO is, and this year in particular, how important it was to bring the FCC.
You know, CANTO, we're 34 years old. This is our 34th event.
Wow.
And it's, over the years, it's been really operator-led, just telephone network operators. But we've expanded. We have regulators as members. We have ICT stakeholders. So we're becoming the total ICT stakeholder organization. And as we spread, we've attracted high caliber speakers such as the FCC chairman, Ajit Pai, which I would say was fantastic, really well received, and he gave a really positive message. And in fact, we had the most regulators attend our conference, over 40. Wow. We've never had that many, all from the Caribbean, and I think that was, you know, we were very, very pleased with that.
CANTO has been so instrumental, not only in bringing networks and of course different organizations together, telecoms and regulators, but they have also been very instrumental in terms of developing policies that would lead the ICT movement in the Caribbean region. What are some of those policies that you've been able to work on?
So one recently, we've been working on maintaining the open internet and getting all operators to sign up to not block any OTTs and make sure that we have an open internet. And we've had a fabulous amount of Caribbean network operators sign up for that.
It definitely sounds like CANTO is moving the Caribbean forward, and of course keeping the internet open and keeping it fair and keeping it honest. This year the team of CANTO was guiding digital adoption to a global market. What does that mean to you?
It really means a number of things, but in essence there's so much technology out there. You know, we've heard about 5G and Internet of Things that will come with 5G. You've heard about just a wide range of new services, all based around the internet. And I think we really have to guide our members as we go forward. I think that is there's so much out there, and together, if we work together, we can actually work through it. So that's really what it's about.
I love it, of course. And this is the chairman of CANTO, Mr. Julian Wilkins, and he has been doing a phenomenal job. And of course, I'm sure we're going to see you more here at CANTO in some of the other sessions. When we come back, of course, we're going to speak to even more people and talk about some of the great work behind the scenes that happens to make CANTO every year such a success.
As chairman of the FCC, what do you see as your biggest responsibility?
To me, it's closing the digital divide. I think there's no higher calling for our agency, especially at this point in time, than making sure that everybody in the United States has access to technology. I think it's always been important, but especially now as we enter a time when virtually all of life's activities depend on having access to this online platform. Right. As I mentioned in my remarks yesterday, I've been visited now over 90 cities in 33 states in the territories of Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands. To start a business, to educate your kids, to have telemedicine, to engage in precision agriculture, to do all of these things requires internet access or other access to technologies.
Absolutely.
And it follows from that if you don't have that access, then essentially you are left behind. Your families are worse off, your communities are weaker. And so I see it as our goal to set a regulatory framework that allows for everybody in the digital era to be able to succeed. We can't guarantee success for everybody, but what we can do is guarantee digital opportunity as best we can. And so we've done a lot of work along that front over the last year and a half, and I can't wait to do more to make sure that when my time is done, we can help close that digital divide.
You know, many people are interested in the rationale for the FCC changing its position with regard to net neutrality.
I've heard a little bit about this issue.
Yes. A few people have come up to me and mentioned it once or twice. You know, of course, it's better known as the FCC Restoration Internet Freedom Order. I like that.
That's yes.
Sounds better than net neutrality, anyway. So, can you actually describe the rationale for making the change?
I'd be happy to. I start from first principles. To me, the internet is one of the greatest free market success stories in history. That is perhaps the one thing that all Americans can agree on. But it didn't have to be that way. At the dawn of the commercial internet in the mid-1990s, when President Clinton was in office, he made a very important decision, which is that he would not subject this new technology, the internet, to the heavy-handed regulations of the past. He would not regulate the internet like a slow-moving water company or electric company.
Right.
Instead, he would take a more free market, light touch approach. And to me, the results speak for themselves. Over the subsequent 20 years, from 1996 until 2015, we saw 1.5 trillion, with a T, dollars of network investment. We saw 228K modems give way to gigabit fiber. We saw small startups known as Facebook and Amazon and Netflix and Google become global giants. And consumers benefited from all this innovation. And I would argue that a primary reason was the bipartisan decision not to adopt these utility-style regulations. The second rationale was that in 2015, when these rules were adopted, there was no market failure to solve. We weren't living in a broken internet. And so I think these regulations were largely a solution in search of a problem. More than that, the solution ended up being worse than the problem itself. As I mentioned, over the last several years, we've seen evidence that network investment has declined for the first time in the history of the internet outside of a recession. That's not something that benefits consumers at the end of the day. And so going forward, we had a choice to make. Should we stick with the regulations as they were? Should we get rid of all the regulations? We decided to take neither of those two extreme forces. Instead, we chose a middle course. We retained a very strong transparency rule that requires every single internet service provider, from the largest ones to the smallest ones, to disclose network management practices. We've empowered the Federal Trade Commission to take targeted action against any anti-competitive conduct they see in the marketplace. Yeah. And at the end of the day, we rely on market forces and consumers to tell us and to tell the government exactly where the weak spots are in terms of ISP behavior. We are confident that this will lead to much greater network investment and a free and open internet. These rules have been in place now for a little over a month and a half.
Yes.
And as we can tell, people are probably tweeting about this fireside chat at this very moment, which I think is proof enough that the internet has not ended, contrary to the fears that some raised.
Sidney DeWeaver, Head of Technical Department at Bureau Telecommunications and Posts, St. Martin. As a regulator for telecoms, we regulate the industry. We assist actually the ministry that is in charge of telecommunications with policies and sort of a roadmap in terms of where the country or the ministry wants to take communications forward for that respective community, in this case, St. Martin. Yeah, this year, Ajit Pai, the chairman of the FCC, which is the regulatory body for the U.S. And its territories, was invited as a keynote speaker for CANTO 2018 in Panama. As a regulator myself, the FCC is sort of the biggest regulatory body that exists and we look at them and see what their trends are and how that trends can be related back to our respective island, in this case St. Martin, and the wider Caribbean as well. As part of him being here, we had a closed-door session with him. Only regulators from the different Caribbean islands. So this was a group actually formed over a year ago at the last CANTO event in Punta Cana, where we came together and discussed matters pertaining to the regulatory agencies in the Caribbean, the wider Caribbean, and how can we collab closer with the U.S., seeing that we kind of mimic the U.S. in terms of what they're putting out in technologies and new technologies that are coming out. This year was no different, with a couple of more precise topics, and and one of them, of course, was the relationship with the FCC and the Caribbean regulators as it pertains to disaster recovery. As everybody know, the Caribbean was hit by two major hurricanes, Irma and Maria, and telecoms was heavily affected by it. So in these conversations with the FCC, we were trying to foster a more closer bond, and as it relates to the recovery after a hurricane or after a disaster, and how we can get things moving faster in our communities as it relates to telecommunications.
Hi, I'm Julian Wilkins, Chairman of CANTO, and welcome to the 34th Conference and Trade Exhibition here in the beautiful city of Panama.
Is the region doing enough to catch up? And this is a very important question. Is the region doing enough? Our countries doing enough? What are the critical success factors that will ensure we realize the future that we want for our region? I must say that each country has embarked on its own journey and must prioritize what is in the best interest for their citizens, for their country. While at the same time, we have to look at things from a regional perspective as well. We need to see where we can harmonize our efforts for the benefit of the region on a whole. And one needs to only look as far as the proposals or the main characteristics of the CARICOM single ICT space. That speaks specifically to one, regionally harmonized policy, regulatory and legislative regimes, national and regional robust broadband infrastructure, common framework for governments, ICT service providers and consumers, and something that I think is very pertinent for us as a region, effective, secure technology and management systems.
From government standpoint, we have to look at a different type of balance because we still have to contend with the old economy and we still have to deal with all of the imperatives working within that whole economy. In many respects, much of the transformation that we are looking for with respect to ICTs are a bit slow in coming. And even as we speak, looking at what we would expect in terms of attraction of new industry or of transformation of some of our old industries, and the whole idea of still creating sufficient viable employment for our people are still concerns that we have to deal with. Again, the cost of doing business in our region is still a pivotal part of the conversation. I noticed it has not been very much mentioned in many of the presentations that I've seen at these type of forums. But clearly, we accept that we are smaller in size, but the way that we have approached this matter with respect to the average revenue per user contribution that our citizens have to make towards the continued viability of UD operators is, again, a part of the consideration and concern that we have to bring to these discussions from time to time.
From a regulatory perspective, I think that we have to look at the infrastructure. We have to create policy whereby government as well as the stakeholders have a public partnership and the consumers to improve our infrastructure. All of us, obviously, we like quality telecommunication services at reasonable rates. And so to establish that, we will have to increase in terms of capacity as well as to provide the services that we all love. And that is through the establishment of quality infrastructure as well.
I would just basically touch a little bit about the BVI perspective, what we've been going through recently since the passage of not just one but two Category 5 hurricanes, and many other countries in the region who've experienced the same level of devastation to their telecom infrastructure, not only the telecom infrastructure, but to the economies. And we see that there's a direct correlation with ICT and the strength of the economies and the importance of having a robust ICT infrastructure to improve and drive your economic development. I think it gives us, while the devastation itself left us in a space where we're not comfortable or used to, it gives us an opportunity. It gives us an opportunity to reset, not just the BVI, but Dominica, Puerto Rico, and all the other areas that were devastated by these hurricanes, to reset and build right, build the infrastructure right, have the level of collaboration that is needed across the region to ensure that we have a single ICT space that we continue to speak about, but we only do it in talk. I think it's important for us now to start to act on developing this single ICT space to drive not just our new economy in terms of fintech and all those things that are coming on stream, but the current and old economies, tourism and all those economies now are so driven heavily on ICT.
I think it bears restating that as governments in the region, our primary function is to ensure that all our citizens are given a good quality service from our telecoms providers at a reasonable price. I think that if we begin with that very basic principle, that we have the best quality service available, we can then determine the mechanics of how we get that. And of course, it should be for a reasonable price, bearing in mind that our citizens, our countries, are still ranked as developing countries. And so that we have to be careful in terms of national economic development policy that these are taken into account. So that growth, economic development are what we have to ensure happens. I think if we have growth and economic development in our countries, that it gives great opportunities for telecoms providers to also grow, because they are and should be and will be an integral part of that growth across any sector.
So CANTO, as a diverse organization, if you look at the composition of our board, it's also diverse. In January, we welcome a new board member, Mike Antonios from Suriname. He leads Telesur, which is the operator, the member operator in Suriname. And Mike has brought with him a lot of new experience to the board.
Hi, my name is Mike Antonios. I am the CEO of Telesur. Telesur has been a member of CANTO for a very long time now. Our relationship with CANTO is very important because it gives us an opportunity to participate within the Caribbean and being involved in the different ICT developments within the Caribbean. Telesur is involved in different types of ICT projects in Suriname. One of them is the Telesur National Broadband Project, in which we do not offer only more connectivity, but also different type of e-services. I have been participating within CANTO for several years, and beginning of this year I had the privilege of being elected a board member within CANTO, and it gives me also an opportunity to express my views on ICT development, but not only ICT, but also ICT related developments within the Caribbean. Some of the projects or subjects that are important to me, which are ICT related, is for instance Caribbean content. That is very important to me because normally we always look at the natural resources to develop countries, but the Caribbean content by itself is a resource that exists which we do not really explore enough. So that is one of the things that related to ICT, we can create more development on it, but also more value for it.
My name is Frederick Morton. I am the Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of Tempo Networks, the leading media television network in the Caribbean that everyone affectionately refers to as the biggest, baddest channel in the Caribbean. One of the most important aspects of Tempo and bringing the Caribbean forward is the development of content. Content is no longer just king. We all know that. Folks have said over the last couple of years, in fact, Bill Gates, Microsoft founder and chairman, coined the term content is king. But I'm going to coin the phrase right now that content is no longer king, content is the entire kingdom. It is everything. It tells our stories, it allows us to inspire our youth. In fact, when you talk about millennials, that's all they think about. And they want content fast, and they want content when they want it. And they want to select the content that they want when they want it. So we are about developing the content. Caribbean culture is content ready as well. So we are an exciting people. Our culture is invigorating and amazing. Our destinations are second to none. So the Caribbean is content ready. And over the last decade, Tempo has positioned itself as the platform for the development and the production of Caribbean content, which we will now take to the world. Now, CANTO and Tempo has been partners for the last 10 years. In fact, CANTO is Tempo and Tempo is CANTO. We work together to create this marketplace where everybody to come together, the ministers, the stakeholders from throughout the world, and talk about relevant issues in telecom. But for us, most importantly, relevant issues in telecom as it relates to content development, because we believe that content drives the entire engine. It's like the fuel in the engine. So you could have a great car, the most, the beautiful car, the engine is sound, etc. But if you don't have the fuel to drive that car, to make that car move, it's not going to happen. And content, my friends, is the fuel. CANTO allows us to come together and develop the strategic partnerships that are necessary to produce and develop the content so that we can combine our resources, both economic and our creative energies, to create the quality content that the Caribbean deserves. One of the most strategic partnerships that we've developed thus far is recently with the newest member of the CANTO board, Mr. Mike Antonios. He, of course, is the CEO, Managing Director of Telesur in Suriname. And that particular partnership is destined to be a groundbreaking one in the development of Caribbean content. In fact, we are developing a slate of content that is going to be world-class, internationally ready, and moving the Caribbean culture and the people and the destinations to a totally new level. And what's great about that is it all developed here over a series of conversations over the last couple of years, right here at the CANTO conference.
To be an enabler, we of course need broadband connections because we see that as a foundation for other type of services. Those type of services such as e-education, e-health, and related to this presentation today, also IPTV. And as you can see, for several years now, there is a lot of development in the telecommunication industry in which it is not only the connectivity we offer, but also other type of services. We are very much looking into developing local content or assist others in developing local content. Frederick Morton from Tempo and I, we elaborated a lot about how and working together and not only talk, because talk is cheap of course, but also act. So we worked on a project and we reached the next stage.
For over the last 13 years, we've been building content, culturally relevant content, content that belongs to us, is for us, by us. It is my belief that through the development of content, we tell our stories. Stories are very important because they inspire our youth, they record our history for time to come. The Caribbean has to start to take great care in the development of its content. And we have been doing it again for the last 13 years, and it is the topic that excites me the most. So we are content ready. So why not build extraordinary content and shoot that out to the world, because it will ultimately improve our circumstance, our tourism product, and every aspect of our economy rises through the development of quality content. So in order to do it and do it right, it is essential that you have the right partners. That's absolutely essential. Doing it alone is a recipe for disaster. So you have to put together a team to develop your content. Oftentimes we come to CANTO, we gather in these conferences, we come together, we have a great exchange of ideas, the marketplace is robust, we talk, and then we go away and nothing happens in that year. We don't talk enough, we don't develop the concepts that we talked about, and therefore we're just we're looking forward to the next year, I want to impress upon you that it's important that we do the work in between. And Mike and I have been doing the work in between, and we hope that that will resonate as a model with regards to what should happen here and what happens in between. We're extremely proud of what this is ultimately representing, and we encourage you all to continue collaborating, and let's build up the Caribbean in a major way.
Hi, my name is Mike Antonius, and I am one of the newest CANTO board members. Welcome to CANTO 2018.
Well, of course, back home, we do have a number of online services. We are fortunate to have the Asikuda World, to have Smart Streams, and many other online services. But as you know, everything is a work in progress, and there are many other services that we need to bring online. As I look at the digital project that was being promoted earlier, I see some scope or some opportunity for Digicel or some other service provider to, get in on the market in terms of the fiber to all of the various government buildings, so forth, because it's one thing to have the services online, but you want to make sure that they can be accessed at high speed and quality.
Right. 4 years on a journey to implement our own version of the 21st century government. And just as the two expert speakers from Digicel and from Cisco had mentioned earlier, it is a phase implementation program. Certainly we are at the phase where now we are, I think, have gone beyond the design and we are actually at implementation. So a number of the critical areas of the government's operation have already been automated, including our border entry systems, the customs and excise, the whole aspect of our driver's license renewal program, several other areas. This year we're making an attempt at providing a records management system for our National Police Force and also for our health services. And so beyond that, it's really to get all of this joined up in one space, such that we provide seamless services for our citizens.
For this discussion, there's three important pillars in our development plan, which are safety and security, education and healthcare. And you don't need that much of imagination that the ICT can be a foundation for all these three pillars. And I must say in general, how can the private sector support these, or how can they make benefit out of these projects? Of course, first of all, join this process. I mean, I know that in some cases that there's risk involved if you do not know the outcome, but an example is the performance excellence within our government initiative. I think one of my colleagues already mentioned that you do not have to wait for the government to initiate things, but the government can be a catalyst. But there are so many opportunities within business solutions that can be also provided by the private sector. There is definitely a place where government and private sector can work side by side.
I think the whole idea of the use of ICTs for government is to deliver services to our people, to make them more citizen-centric in a way that makes their lives easier. So there is a framework. It needs to get better. We need to ensure that one of the themes that I take away from this, our session here, is speed. So it's not just a habit there, but it must be able to deliver at a certain speed. And this is one way in which our service providers can help us to improve how good our networks are, to make sure that we can deliver the services that we want to on a first-class system. But I think that we have done a tremendous amount of work. We understand the need to be able to use technology to make life easier, more simple.
My name is Jennifer Matarangas-King. I'm the Vice President of Public Relations and Governmental Affairs for VIA. We're very happy to be here for CANTO's 34th annual conference. We have been a part of CANTO for several years under the ATN international flag. VIA has been recently rebranded last year, but I think most people remember us as Innovative Telephone and Choice in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Very happy to be here for several reasons. We have board members from our company on CANTO, but more importantly, I think we are based throughout the U.S. and the Caribbean, but especially VIA, very much a local company, and very happy to support. And I have to say, on behalf of the company, very happy to be here to support Mary Mabey, who is the first female general counsel for ATN. That's a huge accomplishment, an amazing young woman, mother, and just an amazing talent. So I have a lot of reasons to be very happy to be here. We're very, very excited about our role in our community. VIA has over 375 employees, and I'm very happy to say that 50% of our supervisors and up, so from supervisors to vice presidents, are women. So we don't just work there, we're at the table making decisions. I've been with the company, January will be 20 years in various roles. I have been involved in operations from running the business office to being in charge of cable TV, and now I'm in public relations and governmental affairs. So I've really had a chance to see the company grow under different leaders. And I think it's important, for me, one of my passions, I spend a lot of time in the community, and I think it's very important for young women to see women like me. You know, I'm a girl from Hill Street, very humble beginnings, and I think a lot of times people look at, well, who's in the C-suite? Who's running the show? And when they realize this is someone who is from around the corner, who was very fortunate to have amazing parents, who invested in education and made sure that they did amazing things and came back, it's like, well, that's me. And for me, I have a 17-year-old daughter. That's very important. I think young women need to see people who look like them and didn't have a silver spoon in their mouth to realize all things are possible.
Women in ICTs, always an important aspect of the CANTO conference, or always an important aspect of the CANTO agenda. This year you will see we have changed the forum a little bit to have more time and more interaction with other women who attended. This year we had a really nice lineup of women. We were particularly happy to have Mary Maybe, the first female executive of ATNI, also a member of CANTO, to address delegates, to bring her experience and to talk to people, answer questions from the floor on what her journey has been into the ICT, breaking the ICT ceiling in her company.
Hello, I'm Mary Maybe. I'm the General Counsel for ATN International. We're based out of Beverly, Massachusetts. And I'm here working with our subsidiaries, GT&T, VIA, OneCom, and Logic. This is actually my first time at CANTO, and I'm very pleased to be here. It's going to be such a pleasure to meet all of the friends and colleagues that I've made over the last few years, working with all of our different counterparts and vendors in the Caribbean. I'm very excited that I was able to speak at the inaugural Women's Forum at CANTO. I think it was a fantastic experience, and I look forward to next year's CANTO.
A big thank you and big kudos to CANTO's involvement in highlighting the discussion about women, especially in the STEM fields and ICT. It's an ongoing important discussion, and it's pretty evident because you can see in here the majority of women, people in here are women. So it's how do we increase the importance that men recognise that we are a force to be reckoned with. And I want to look at the top 5 barriers. Why do women not go into technology? What are the 5 barriers that stop them? From the same report, 48% of people and women in this report lack of mentors. There was nobody to look up to. There was nobody to help guide them through the process. There was a lack of female role models in the field of 42%. There was a gender bias in the workplace, and we're going to touch on some of that this afternoon. There was unequal growth opportunities in comparison to men. And finally, there was unequal pay for the same skills. So there's still some way to go in that respect.
It is a male-dominated industry, and to watch it grow and having more women become involved and being able to communicate with them on a C-level basis and in higher positions is one of the most fascinating things about technology.
There is a reason why I think the stats are like 60% of women are graduating in undergrad, 60% are graduating from master's degrees, but there's only 20% in the C-suite. So there is a gap. And I think forums like this are trying to say, what is the issue? What is it? How can we make sure, one, women stay in the industry, women come into the industry, and then succeed in the industry?
CANTO every year, of course, does not disappoint. I mean, from the conferences to the exhibitors to the attendees, it is always quite a meaningful experience. And of course, to put that on, you must have a team. And at the helm of that team is Ms. Trisha Baltazar. How are you?
I am great, and how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. Of course, happy to be here at another CANTO. This is the 34th year, and everyone has such great things to say. Wonderful. Talk to us a little bit and tell our audience a little bit about CANTO's structure.
Well, it's a dynamic company with a great support structure, starting for a membership of operators and affiliate members who are suppliers or vendors. That is also, under this is the board of directors, 9 board of directors made up of operators. And we are also led on, by the Secretary General, Teresa Awankin. Under this, she has a staff of 8 persons, service development, finance, and operations. And then we have a support staff of 12 persons who assist us with this event.
You know, I have had the opportunity, Trisha, to be at the behind the scenes of CANTO, and I can tell you, you guys work so hard, and especially just, you know, getting all the ministers here. How important is it to have the ministers come to this conference?
The ministers are extremely important to CANTO because, of course, they are the decision makers. And we need them to be a part of it because they're part of the puzzle. The puzzle of ICT is made up of the decision makers, the operators, the vendors, and of course the customers. So without the ministers, this would not be possible.
As far as regulators, this year in particular, Mr. Ajit Pai, who is the chairman for the FCC, was present. Another regulator, Mr. Sidney DeWeaver, told us that last year there was a conglomerate of them who got together and basically formed a committee. And then this year, Mr. Julian Wilkins, who is the chairman, told us that 40 regulators were in attendance. How important now are the regulators to CANTO?
Well, there are so many hot topics in terms of regulations to this sector right now, so it's very, very important. This sector is highly regulated, so we need their input. Like I said, the sector is made up, it's like a puzzle, and each person plays an important role. So without the regulators as well, this would not also be possible.
Yes. So it seems like every attendee and every group that comes to CANTO is well received, but also are here and they enjoy the networking possibilities. Talk to me a little bit about what the vision for CANTO would be this year. Of course, with the theme being guiding that digital adoption to lead in a global economy.
The CANTO has several objectives. One of it being is to create value for our membership, to be able to come under one roof with all the stakeholders to discuss the important matters for the sector, as well as to create an awareness for the customers to see the back end of the ICT sector.
You know, that's so important, and of course the work that you do. And Trisha, thank you so much. You have been such an instrumental and intricate part of what happens here on CANTO. Listen, we are going to come back, of course, with Temple Presents CANTO 2018 right here live in Panama City.
This is where we get to acknowledge our innovators and also express our gratitude to our generous sponsors, without whom staging a conference the magnitude of this one would be extremely difficult. I want you to put your hands together for yourselves for participating over the last couple of days. Come on, put those hands together, let's make some noise. We're moving on to the recognition of the WTISD winner. Our WTISD winner hails from Belize, and his name is Jamal Whitty. Let's put our hands together for Jamal Whitty.
I might remind you that you are leaders now, that what you do now what you say now matters. And so it is important that we, as a species, continue to pass down the information and knowledge that we now have to the people that come after us. And it is important that we show them, that we teach them, and that we give them a step in the right direction. And give us a chance to be creative, give us a chance to show you by providing opportunities just like this, and empower us, support our goals, support our dreams, and we are out here, we are ready, and we are eager to learn. Thank you.
We're moving on to the Innovation Awards. The CANTO Innovation Awards are biennial awards honoring the highest achievements from the mobile sector in the information and communications technology ICT industry, celebrating member organizations that are blazing a trail within the sector in 3 categories. And the winner is the Innovation Award winner, To Operate. And the Connecting the Unconnected Award, Mimosa Blueway. The award for excellence in corporate social responsibility goes to Digicel.
CANTO is a very, very important organization. It's a unique Caribbean organization which brings together stakeholders from the entire ICT ecosystem. It's the only institution of its kind in the region that brings together these stakeholders from different backgrounds and different constituents. And as a result, it's an extremely important organization for companies like Cable and Wireless.
Everybody was pleased. I think this conference, this was a year that we enjoyed expert speakers, we enjoyed the best, we enjoyed good dialogue, we also enjoy things like, of course, local culture in Panama, because that's part of what CANTO do. We expose the culture to over 700 people. So this is where we add value to the entire ecosystem instead of just one sector. And that is why CANTO platform will continue to grow, because of the inclusiveness of every single stakeholder in ICT.
I've been representing St. Martin at CANTO as a regulator for the last 3 years. CANTO as a regulator, attending CANTO for us is bring different positives in terms of networking with service providers from around the region in terms of what their goals are and what's the outlook for new technologies. Also meeting with other regulators that we don't normally meet each other on a regular basis, and making and fostering better relationships. Every year we get more information, we get a better insight of what's happening in the industry in the Caribbean. And with that, we are better prepared to make better policies in terms of regulations for our island.
So VIA has been a member of CANTO from its inception. The networking possibilities are amazing because you have everyone here. You have the operators, the regulators, you have vendors. So I'm seeing some old friends and I'm meeting some new people who do business with us, but maybe I don't have the opportunity to interact with them on a regular basis because they're in more of the technical field.
Here at CANTO, we see it's one of the best spaces, one of the best forums that brings together telecom operators from all over the Caribbean. It's a great opportunity for us to speak more about our services and to also engage with our membership here at this forum.
I think CANTO brings real intellectual depth in terms of the approach to discussing public policy, regulatory policy, technology. There's real intellectual variety and substance to the way these issues are being discussed at CANTO conferences, and I think Caribbean peoples will be proud of the way that these issues are handled.
This CANTO meeting, CANTO 2018, has been a very good one. In fact, it has allowed us the opportunity to interact more not only with my colleagues within the region, but also representatives of the different telcos. It has brought to fore some of the issues affecting not only Jamaica, but other countries within the region as we move towards embracing the fourth industrial revolution, where ICT is now a critical pillar for economic growth and development.
One of our biggest takeaways this year is the level of collaboration amongst the ministers in the Caribbean and how we could work together to create a single ICT space to move the ICT platform forward in the Caribbean.
Well, it's quite a promising conference, I must say, and the level of interaction, I think this is my second time, and I'm seeing it going higher and higher.
CANTO provides us with an opportunity to speak directly to certain audiences we really need to reach. So I think CANTO is a fantastic organization. It's important for us to be engaged. We're here every year.
What makes CANTO important for an operator is, one, the collaboration. No one has a copyright on intelligence or innovation, and it's through sharing thoughts that you improve.
CANTO provides a platform that brings the legal personnel or legislators, so to speak, ministers like myself, the service providers, the regulators, and of course a number of other key stakeholders like Tempo. And of course, you know, it's always good to have all the key stakeholders around one table in one place.
We've been coming to CANTO now for about 15 years. CANTO is really important to us. We've made a lot of really good networking connections throughout the years with many different telcos, suppliers. We're really happy to be here again and look forward to a great conference.
I'm happy to say, though, that this year has been a fantastic year. We seem to have done very well. We've won the Best Display, Best Booth Award, and also I think we've just had a very good conference.
CANTO 2019 is going to be in the home of the Secretariat, Trinidad and Tobago. We are really pleased to have that 2019 is going to be in Trinidad, because 2019 is also our 35th year. So for CANTO in Trinidad, you can expect the usual very good speakers, international names, the likes of Facebook, Google. Again, the FCC will have some kind of input. There will be some discussion on IoT. We will have our regular staples, but we will just up the game in Trinidad.
We hope that you have enjoyed Tempo Presents CANTO 2018 live right here in Panama City. Please join us, of course, for CANTO 35th Annual Trade and Exhibition Show, coming to you live from the Hyatt Hotel in Trinidad and Tobago.
Rock